Hi guys, in this tip of the week, we're going to cover again how to add animators to text in order to create the bouncing animation on the text. This is part of what we covered in our last class. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and double click on a new composition. I'm going to double click my T text layer to set my cursor in the middle of the screen, and I'm going to type the word bounce. I'm using Arial around it, and everything else is set up appropriately. Let me just go ahead and bring that down actually. So set this text and set the baseline to 0. Okay, so with that done, what I want to do is I want to start adding actual animators to this. So in order to center the animation to each one of the text, each one of the characters, what I want to do is under the text layer, I want to change the alignment for the text. So I'm going to go to the group alignment and remember to activate this switch in order to see the little X's. And the X's indicate the point of reference from which the animation will be happening for the animators on each one of the characters. So in this case, I'm going to center them. I'm eyeballing this. So that's the value that I got. And let's go ahead and add the first animator. The first animator for this will be scaling each character from 0 to 100 evenly. So I'm going to go ahead and from the drop down for the animator, make sure that I select the text name. Then I'll go into the flyout menu, select scale, and then I am going to change the value of the scaling for that animator to 0. At this time, I'm also going to rename that animator to even scale so that I know that this is the one that takes care of scaling evenly all of my characters. And then I change the value of scale to 0. Then I'm going to use the range selector to increase from the start value from 0 to 100 so that I can go ahead and increase the size of each one of the characters as I go. So I'm going to set up a keyframe at the beginning with a value of 0 with the start option of the range selector. And then at the 1 second mark, I am going to increase all the way to 100. Therefore, when I play this back, each character is increasing in size through the scale. So that's the first animator. The next animator will take care of bringing this even, made the Y scale value of these characters even bigger. So I'm going to scale them to 150. And I am also going to bring the text down by about 100 pixels. So let me go ahead and collapse that scale, that animator, select text, again, the text name layer, the text layer name, sorry. And under the animator, I am going to add another scale value, another scale animator. And this one is also going to contain a position animate and a position change in the property. So I'll click on the add value for that animator, for the new animator. I'm going to go to the property flyout menu, and I'm going to use position. So now I have those two properties under the second animator. I'm going to rename that animator scale Y so that I know that it scales under Y and underscore position Y. So I know that that animator takes care of those two property changes. So the scale Y will be only on the Y, so I'll deselect the little link so that they're not constrained, and I'm going to increase the value of my scaling to 150, and then I'm going to bring down my position on the Y-axis to about 100. So now that takes care of that part of the animation, but as you can see, I don't see my even animation, my even scaling happening from the baseline area where it started, and that's where I need to work with the range selector. So for this range selector, what I want to do is I want to use the end value. So in this case, I want to start with a value of 0 here and go to the 1 second mark and increase that value to 100 at that point. So let's see, let me go ahead and set that up for 100, and I am going to bring that down to 0 at the very beginning. So now, basically, my second range selector is offsetting the values of the things coming in from the first animator, and so it's allowing me to see that the scaling starts happening even, but the second animator takes over, and that's why they start evenly increasing, but they start getting elongated as they go across time. So basically, I am offsetting, I'm utilizing the very beginning for evenly scaling so that they come out of the baseline, and then the second animator starts taking over. So now they look like they're coming in from the baseline where they were created and coming down as they increase in size. Now I'm going to create yet another animator on this. So I'll select the text name, the text layer name, add another animator. And this one will be also for position and scale. So under the new animator, I'm going to go to the Add Property menu, and I'm going to add scaling to that. Now this time, what I want to do is I want to bring everything back up to the top. So I need to see where that B hits the bottom. And that's where I need it to start bouncing back at that point. And that's where my range selector will start affecting the changes or effecting the changes that I will be applying through that range selector. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to bring everything back up. So I'll change the Y value to -100 so that everything goes back to the original baseline. Remember, on this one here, the value for Y was +100. So I'm countering that in the next set of animation for this animator here. And this one, I'm going to call bounce back, this new animator. So in the bounce back animator, I'm pushing everything back up to 100 pixels up. So that takes care of that. So all of them will be going up. And then I will, at this point, also scale this on the y-axis only to bring it back down to its original value, which happens to be about 67%. So with that done, at this point, which is where the B hits the bottom portion and it should start bouncing back, that's where I'll set my first keyframe. And for this, I am going to use the offset value of the range selector. I am going to start with a value of -100, and then I'm going to bounce back up to a value of 0. So I created 2 keyframes for that. Now the end result is the following. My text comes in evenly, starts stretching on the y-axis and moving down to +100 pixels down on the y-axis. Then it starts bouncing back to a value to the original value by subtracting the -100 pixels of that, and the scaling goes back to its normal size. So basically, my characters look like they're bouncing back into position. I'm going to apply a little motion blur on that. They look a little bit more natural. Now you can also do any easy in and easy out in any of these if that helps your animation. For now, I'm going to maintain things as they are. Now, what I want to do at this point is I want to add yet another animator to make that U wobble after a certain amount of time. So to do that, the animator is going to take into account where the U is within the characters. And so for that, I will change, instead of using percentage for my range selector, I will be using my index count. So let's go ahead and select the text layer name, click on the animate drop-down menu. And for this one, I am going to be using a scaling animator. This one I am going to call U wobble. And I'm going to change under my range selector advanced options. I am going to change from advanced units from percentage to index. So now I know that I have 6 characters. 0 is a number, so this is 0, 1, 2. So I want to only affect one character, so my start would be at 0 and my end would be 1, meaning I'm only affecting one character. And now I just, as you can see, I have the brackets that indicate what my range is for that range selector. All I need to do is now offset the position. So if I go to 2, notice that it moves it 2 positions down on my characters, and now I am affecting the U only, and that's what I want. I only want that range selector to select the U. And now what I want to do is I want to bring in that code that I showed you in class for the scaling value. So let me go ahead and open up my web browser, and let me copy that from our page it's called Stretch and Squash with Time Start Control. That's the name of this piece of code. So I'm going to copy it, Control C, and then I'm going to add it as a script onto the scaling value. So I'll press the Alt key. Remember, that's the modifier key, Alt key, click on the stopwatch, and there is my window for code. Then I'll go ahead and paste the code that I copied from the website, and let me stretch it out so we can look at this in detail. Now it's basically saying if the time is greater than 2, but in reality, I want this to happen as soon as this gets to about 1 second. So it would be if the time is greater than 1. Now this is also showing me that there's an error on my code, and the error is on this line 10. As it says it right here, the error is on line 10, and that's because this right here, it's basically, I told you guys, that's what I'm telling you on the code, on the actual text, is change this for the name of the actual layer. In this case, the name of the layer is, or the animator, sorry, is U underscore wobble. So I'll have to type U underscore wobble. And then when I click on the gray area, then the error is gone. And now all I need to do is change the timing on this. So I'll have this U bounce after 1 second. So if my time, which is indicating where my time marker is on the timeline, basically saying if that time marker is past the 1 second mark, then do all of this. If it isn't, then make sure that the value of scale remains as is. That's what this is. Okay, so let's go ahead and play this back. Yeah, a semicolon here to close that sentence. Let's play this back and see what the end result is. And there's the wobble for the U. Now, if you want it to happen after 1.5 seconds, then that would be 1.5. So you can calculate if you have something that is, let's say, 1 second and 5 frames, you can calculate what the value of 5 frames is with reference to 1 second, where the FPS is 30 FPS in our case. You can do that math and figure out what that value is, and that's what you would add to 1 second here. And that's how that equation will be looking at whether this is the time marker is bigger than that specific frame, and you can go ahead and place that animation with the time delay.